Hi, guys. I'm Dr. Jenny White, a dentist in Sarasota, Florida, and her fearless patient, Susan, with our podcast, Open Wide, Unfiltered Opinions Between a Dentist and Her Patient. Over the past 25 years or so, I've been sitting in a little room talking to myself all day, and I've gained a lot of wisdom through that process, which I want to share with you. We hope our podcast casts optimism and fearlessness to you so you can rise to the top, stay at the top, and dream bigger than you've ever imagined. So on today's podcast, the soup du jour is our changing narrative, our changing identities. This topic, Susan, is a bit of a little burden for me because there are so many pieces to my identity, and I'm exhausted thinking about talking about all of it. I don't know about you. This also encompasses the concepts of like starting over, reinventing ourselves. What comes to your mind when I say identity, your changing identity?
Well, when we first started talking about doing this, I was thinking that in terms of reinvention, that's what came to mind for me. And many people have reinvented themselves sort of in the middle of their lives, famous people, not so famous people. And I did just that too when I left. I spent many years in corporate America, and then I left there and I started my own business. And in many ways, that was the best thing I ever did. Although, had I not had that corporate experience, I wouldn't have had the experience and the ability to start my own business or the knowledge to start my own business. And so I reinvented myself in my mid whatevers, as we like to say here in this podcast.
That's right.
And it's been a life changer for me because now I'm my own boss. I have my own business. I make my own decisions, and I have a team, which is a fantastic team of people that I work with. So for me, the reinvention has been great and needed, and I was very happy that I did it. But I had to have those years beforehand to appreciate, sort of what I have now.
And even though we have a quote identity now as a business owner, a team of people, et cetera, like you mentioned, you're probably going to reinvent yourself from that. I mean, it's something that never stops. I don't think. I was thinking to myself, I identified myself as a dentist in 1995
Mm.
when I graduated, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, that's so long ago. I am so much more than a quote unquote tooth gardener. Why am I still saying, that's a predominant role that I have, and I take it seriously, and I try and give 150% to it all the time. And so, yes, it's going to be one of my identities, but maybe I could rephrase that a little bit. I'm creative. I think I'm witty. I crack myself up all the time. So that's an identity that I'm kind of working on as to how can I shift that a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting because how you identify with yourself and how other people identify you out in society are really two different things. So the fact that you would say that you're a dentist as opposed to a hiker or as a gardener or any of the other things you also are helps people understand sort of where you are in life. Well, it tells people a lot of things about you, right? When you say that you're educated, you play a big important role, whatever it says. But so other people need to know that about you, and but hear you say you want to be known as other things. Is that making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say. And I would say this in conversation with other people, just socially speaking, when you say you're a dentist, it takes you down one rabbit hole. If I say I'm a podcaster, it takes you down another rabbit hole. It's just, we're so many different things, which is amazing that we can be that. Why limit yourself to just one is what I'm saying. And for me, I think if the identity is old, like something dating back to 1995, why don't I reconsider like what I'm calling myself? I'm always going to be a dentist.
Right. So have you thought about what that is? What is that for you?
I haven't.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't thought about it. No, but this podcast is honestly the thing that made me start questioning it.
Okay. Well, now you can say you're a podcaster.
And I had a patient, thank you, love being a podcaster. And you are a great podcaster too, Susan.
To all of our, 200 viewers or whatever it is, of 100 viewers. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
More than two.
And it's not
So
viewers.
that's great.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I was going to say, is that I just forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, sorry, I pulled you off track. That's that's my fault. No, you were talking about how you identify yourself now, and until you were started to think about this podcast, you hadn't given much thought to how you might identify yourself going forward. So if you are on a hiking trail someplace and somebody says to you, "Oh, what do you do?" What would you answer now?
I would probably say, I'm a professional woman. I've just gotten into podcasting. I love hiking. I love gardening. I love personal growth. I love Andrea Bocelli. I love Lady Gaga. I love Pearl Jam. I love,
Okay, well, here's some advice.
but
Like, don't do they just want to know.
as we're
I'm
out
a
in the
dentist
middle
in
of the
Sarasota.
wilderness.
They don't give a damn about 29 other things that you are. You need to work on this a little bit more, get a little bit more succinct.
I do know, and I haven't put the thought into it. I was just throwing some stuff out there. But the other thing I was thinking of, and tell me if you think this is true, the identity that we say we have, the thing that we latch onto, it might potentially keep the same issues reoccurring for us because we're identifying as a whatever. So for me, for instance, if I'm having the same issues in the dental office, whether it's I can't find staff or I can't find, whatever it is, or patients are a problem, blah, blah. It might be that I'm identifying myself as a dentist who always has staffing issues or a dentist who always has this. It's a really, really old identity that keeps me coming back to the same thing. Am I making sense?
I think so. I'm thinking as you're talking that I had got some advice one time from somebody that said, if you want to reinvent yourself, write your obituary. So write what you want people to know about you when you die, and that will help guide you to what you currently have that you continue to work on and what you need to get rid of and replace it with things that you want in your life. So that's an interesting way to think about things. Write
I
your own obituary.
I agree with that. And Warren Buffett says that too. He
Oh, yeah.
says write your obituary and then try to live up to it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I
Yeah.
know. Like
And
I
he's
learned.
certainly smart and accomplished for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sure is. So I don't know. I think when it comes to identities, I had a patient in the office this week and they asked, "What are you going to discuss on your podcast this week?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, it's a podcast on identity." And she said, "Well, what is that? What do you
Mm,
even mean?" And I said, "Well, it's kind of like you start out as a little girl and then you grow up, you go to school, and then maybe you get married. There's an identity change. And then maybe you have a child. There's an identity change. Maybe you're working. There's an identity. And then maybe you have to give up the work because of X, Y, and Z. That's a change. And then you have aging parents you're taking care. So your identity evolves as you go through life constantly. And whether we talk about it constantly changing, it's doing it. It's kind of like aging. It just happens as we go along.
yeah. There's another concept to consider, though, and that is that if you can identify what the things are in your moral compass that never change, okay? So, for example, I identify as a kind person. I'm not
Yes.
sure everybody would think that, but that's what I want my obituary to say, right? And I work daily to find ways in which I can put acts of kindness to people. So my identity could be changing all around me, but that's not going to ever change. So maybe that's a way to think about it.
Yep.
Is what are those core value systems that you have now or you want, and those are the things that stay always steady, and everything else can move around you.
1,000%. I too, I think I'm a kind person, or I'd like to think that I'm a kind person. I'm a person who wants to help.
Yeah,
And those core
values.
items
Yeah,
and value, they never change. They
right,
never waver. I'd like to think. Now, I'm a smart person, and man, have I done some dumb things in my life,
right.
like stupid things, but I don't feel that the stupid things define who I am.
Mm.
I am still kind. I am still a person who wants to help. Just because I've made a bad decision in my life along the way doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. And those values that I thought were my core go away. So I agree; they stay with you forever, and you try to live up to that
Yeah, and
as you go along.
you can add too along the way. As you decide you want less of this and more of that, you could add some values
Yeah.
that help guide you too.
Yeah.
But then everything else can swirl around you. You can be a mother or you're not, or you can be a daughter or whatever you are, a dentist or a professional. But these things stay the same as those things can change from time to time.
It's like your inner moral compass, your
Yeah.
North Star. And I also think too, when the going gets tough, that's what we always go back to is your core North Star.
There's no question about that. Yeah. Yeah.
And the only time that I'm reminded of those qualities really is when I'm quiet. Call it meditating, call it just sitting on my bed being quiet, like just being quiet,
Yeah.
because it comes to me that even though all this other stuff is happening, these core items are going to guide me along the way.
Yeah.
This is going to bring me a lot of comfort and a lot of peace, and it's going to show me what I need to do when I need to do it.
And
So,
who you are in the process.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. And I have to say right now, who I am is a thirsty person,
Oh.
and I would love to try Susan's cocktail of the podcast.
Okay. So the drink of the podcast is something I made up. So so it's probably called Susan, Don't Reinvent Yourself as a Bartender. I don't know. Cheers. Try it and see. And then I'll tell you what's in it. Mm.
Good.
Your nose is growing.
Let me take another sip
yeah.
because honestly, I'm not sure what I just had.
It's an acquired taste. Mm.
I feel like 50 different things going on in this cup, and I'm not sure of any of them. What is in this?
50 different things going on. So it's whiskey with coconut juice,
Oh,
and a squeeze of lime, and some lime spritzer that called Pellegrino Chow Lime. So it's kind of an interesting layered cocktail. I think maybe the whiskey might be a little too strong for this kind of blend, and maybe in the future we do something like tequila.
well, I didn't mind. I didn't mind the whiskey. I
Okay.
definitely tasted the coconut, but I love the way you said it's layered.
Mm.
We will link this concoction in the show notes. So if anyone wants to have the experience that we're currently having, you can mix up a little batch for yourself and give it a shot.
If everybody wants to grow hair on their chin or whatever.
Exactly. So I wanted to get back to the not identity crisis, identity conversation. And I thought it would be fun if I listed some famous people and gave you a couple quotes as to what they said about identity and get your thoughts on it. So, of course, because I do his priming every morning, Tony Robbins, the one and only motivational coach, says the strongest force, and think about this, the strongest force in the human personality is the need for us to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. The strongest
that's
force.
what we were just talking about. Yeah. Strongest force. Say it again.
The strongest force in the human personality is the need for us to stay consistent with how we define ourselves.
Yeah, that's perfect.
How we define ourselves is everything. And I'll tell you, all the listeners, if you're defining yourself using some negative, derogatory terms, change that.
Yeah.
Stop that.
Yeah.
You're worth more than that. You
Yeah.
can be more than that. You can do more than that. You can give more than that. Stop that.
Yeah. I like that quote.
All right. Mel Robbins, a super famous female podcaster, she talks about 3 items, and I wanted to list each one, and we can just kind of I want to see what you think, Susan, on these. The first one is authenticity. She says, embrace your authentic self and do not allow other people's labels to define your identity. For instance, other people's opinions, because it can unintentionally make it a part of your identity. For example, this comes to mind. If a friend says, you're always late, Jenny. You're just late to everything. which, by the way, is not true.
Well, I hope not,
I
because
can't
that I
stand
can't
that. I
stand people
can't
who are late.
stand
And
that.
that just says I'm more important than the person waiting
Yes.
for you. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. It's
But okay.
like
But I know you're using it as an example. So go
right,
ahead.
but it's just an example. Then I may start saying, I'm Jenny and I'm always late. I always run late. No, I don't. That's not who I am. That's somebody else putting that on me. And then that's me taking it and making it part of my identity. It's not true. So be your authentic self, is what Mel Robbins is saying.
Yeah. Now, I don't think you can be your authentic self or know your authentic self without some life experiences. So I don't think that this is necessarily good advice for younger people. I think you know stuff through a process of elimination over the course of your life. I'm not going to accept this kind of behavior anymore. I'm going to be more of this, less of that. I think.
Agree, but if you're young and you're listening to this, Google authenticity, Google, get on Perplexity, Chat GPT, find out, and start working your way towards it. I mean, that's how we all got here. We didn't just start all of a sudden knowing what our authentic self was, but you got to start somewhere. But yes, I agree, it takes time. Her second item that she mentions regarding identity is belonging versus fitting in. Man, can I talk to you about fitting in? So Mel says true belonging comes from being your authentic self, while fitting in means changing yourself to meet the other's expectations.
Yeah.
So
Like
again,
like we did in fifth grade. Like remember all that? You oh my God.
right, but or even today, like if socially you're out with people and they're the it people and you really want them to like you and you want to fit in and you find yourself, I find myself trying to match them so that I can fit in. I'm not doing that, by the way. I'm just giving an example. But stop trying to fit in. Be who you authentically are.
And
So,
know that you might not fit in
right,
with some groups that have expectations for something else.
right, right.
Yeah.
And then Mel has a very famous theory called the let them theory. Have you heard of this one,
Yes, I
Susan?
have. She's written a book on it actually.
So, and we'll link that in the show notes. Um, the let them theory encourages people to have their opinions and judgments while you focus on being your true self, free from the need to please others. That builds your real confidence. Again, not relying on outside sources is what that says to me. It's all about authenticity, being yourself, no matter the situation, no matter the social pressure, no matter what people are saying, just be authentic to yourself. Easier said than done.
Right. She uses a word that I think is important in that sentence, and that's confidence. And we should do a whole podcast on that someday. But that's not something you're born with. Like that's something you learn along the way. And as you get in touch with what's important to you, you develop the confidence that, yeah, I can live without those people who make me want to be something that I'm not, or I can live without that vice, whatever. You just develop confidence over time. It's not something that's you're born with.
It's like a muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you gotta work it all the time. Yeah.
develop the muscle. I thought this was interesting, but it's very fitting. Queen Elizabeth. What does she say regarding identity? She says your identity is closely tied to service and belonging within a larger community.
Well, she would, right? Because she did
Amen.
that. Yeah, yeah,
Amen, Queen
yeah,
Elizabeth. I just love her.
yeah.
It's amazing to me that her job was to remain neutral, maintain neutrality, no matter what. And also, did you know that she only fell asleep in public one time when she was in her 80s? And the conversation was a conversation about magnets. That woman
Where'd you
has
find
this.
that information?
I'm
Gee.
full of useless information.
I was gonna
But
say.
that woman has the strength of 29 Clydesdale horses. I mean, she's just stunning. But her service to her country and her neutrality that she maintained, super impressive. I know I'm off topic, but I just love Queen
well,
Elizabeth.
no, you know she's dead, right? I mean, you talk about
Yeah, Roger that one.
no, but I mean, I think her entire life is impressive because she was what, like 23, 4, something like that when she came to the throne, and she lived a very exemplary life, and I think she was really in touch with who she was and wasn't trying to be something she wasn't, and played that role beautifully. Yeah. I
And she went through, I'm guessing, about 25 different prime ministers. She
yeah.
was trained by Winston Churchill. So she had it down from Winston. Winston is also one of my idols. Um, but to go through that many different prime ministers, that many different opinions, that many different theories, and to maintain your neutrality and the love for your country and to show up in public every single time like she did,
I know.
she's a warrior.
Yeah, that is a warrior because think about what she had to wear for outfits, those kind of crazy outfits with
Oh,
those
it's like the
crazy
draperies.
hats
Yeah.
and she had to have a certain kind of purse. And I mean, imagine getting dressed up like that every day. Ugh,
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
no
mm-mm.
time for sweatpants when you're Queen Elizabeth. Are you done with your quotes? I have one.
Oh no,
Okay.
I've got three more here. So the late Steve Jobs, inventor of Apple, he said, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice."
And he
Imagine,
never did, that guy, like ever.
imagine if he listened to people that said, "You can't do
Yeah,
this. This
right.
isn't going to go.
Yeah,
You're crazy."
yeah.
No, 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 no. I can't have a podcast without mentioning the one and only 94-year-old Mr. Warren Buffett. He had a very direct statement regarding identity. And Warren said the big questions about how people behave is whether they've got an inner scorecard or an outer scorecard.
Mm,
It helps if you can be satisfied with an inner scorecard.
mm. I love that quote. Because that's where joy radiates from. Your life joy comes from. I'm super comfortable in my skin. And I can say that, like, I'm super comfortable in my skin now. I wasn't always, but I am now because, you get battle scars along the way. You get comfortable with the decisions that you make, and that builds the confidence. But that is such a great statement and so true.
I know, I know. And you can, he said, how people behave is whether they're relying on an inner or an outer scorecard. I mean, that's just fascinating to me. So
Yeah.
if I'm approaching someone and I'm thinking of asking a question, but if I can decide ahead of time, are they an inner scorecard person or an outer, I can kind of predict how they're going to react to my question.
Yeah.
And I can kind of gear things more in my favor. Knowing that ahead of time is kind of like being psychic, sort of.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, the one and only share. We have to go there. Uh, she said, all of us invent ourselves. Some of us just have more imagination than others.
And more flair if it's share, that's for sure. Wow.
I mean, she is a
Yeah,
survivor.
she sure is. And her boy, she's like 70 something. Her boyfriend is 38 or whatever it is. I mean, bravo, share.
Wow. And
Yeah.
how many different identities has Cher had?
Yeah.
And they're all in the public eye. Anyone who's in the public eye that's enduring their changing identities, I bow down.
Yeah.
I bow down to them.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they do it.
I don't know how they do it either. And that's not something I would ever want is that kind of constant scrutiny
Right.
in the public eye. That's just too much to put up with day in and day out and and that's another thing, like having to live up to what people think of you,
Mhm.
right? Um, yeah.
And that's part of the exhausting part of the identities is if I'm a dentist, then I have to live up to the dentist. So when I'm with people, I've got to be the dentist. If I'm a gardener and I encounter people, it's a different expectation that they have of me. So ping ponging from all the different identities and all the different outside expectations. But I really feel that following, as we discussed, that true North Star inside your soul,
Yeah.
your gut,
That's
who
the only
you
way.
really are,
Yeah.
it's the only way
Yeah.
to survive the waves of changing
Oh,
identities.
yeah. Absolutely.
And the other awesome thing is all of this is within our own control. This isn't something that's out there and we've just got to wait for it to hit us. It's all about developing your authentic self.
Yeah.
Oprah once said, I remember this, I was probably in my 30s and I just couldn't understand it. She said, she's the same no matter if she's on TV, in her house, in the grocery store, which I can't see Oprah going to the grocery store, but that's all I could think of. She said she's the same person. And when I was in my 30s, I said to myself, how do you do that? I feel like I am the most authentic I've ever been in my life. What about you, Susan? Like no matter the scenario, you're going to get the same person,
Yeah, I think now I am. Yeah,
right?
now I am for sure. But I wasn't always like that. And so Oprah, I don't know how old she was when you heard it, may have gone through that transformation and that metamorphosis that we all have to go through to get to understanding like this is me. Like this is really what I'm all about. This is my soul. This is my creed. This is what I'm all about.
Yeah.
And it takes time. It really does. I have a quote that I love a lot, and it says, "The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes." And I think that's so true. And as you go through the decades, you're like, oh my God, like how lucky were we to A, have survived all that, and B, to have had the benefits that we've had. And I don't know. It to me, it feels like a very poignant and timely quote, like for me right now. And that was
And
by Frank Lloyd Wright, the architect.
yeah, that's so beautiful because it's just such a joyous quote, and it's like you develop more appreciation the
Yeah.
longer you live,
Right.
and it's joyful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Speaking of joy, Susan, I was wondering if you could make me happy by showing me a tip of the podcast.
Okay. So, I have found this list 50 things you didn't know you could do with toothpaste. And I'm educating you, my dentist. I think I should send it around to all dental practices because you just never know when you might need these tips. Here's one. Did you know that toothpaste was a skunk deodorizer? That if you get sprayed with a skunk, you can put it on your clothes and it will take away the smell of the skunk. Like, who knew?
I am
You're learning something every day with
amazed.
me. I am telling you.
Every minute I'm learning. Every minute. That brings me to I was in Colorado hiking, and there was this young guy, my BHT, better half Tom and I were hiking, and there was this guy that came running back down the hill or the mountain with his dog who
Oh,
just had all those porcupine needles in
oh
his
God.
face. And the poor guy had to get his dog to the vet, but the dog ended up being okay because we saw this fellow in town later and everything was fine. So, yeah, I don't know why I'm bringing up porcupine because you mentioned skunk. I'm thinking porcupine and skunk are the same
Well,
thing.
he could have tried toothpaste to see if it works on that too.
I am
At the
from West
moment, it's only
Virginia.
for skunks. But yeah. All right. I promise I'll get rid of the toothpaste.
I love it. Don't
Tips.
get rid of it. Don't get rid of it. So I think in closing, we can decide it's time to possibly upgrade, change, rearrange, or reprioritize your identity. Don't let the identities get you down or run you ragged, as we say in the South. You're the driver. You're in your own driver's seat. You're only here for so long. So pick something that serves you, that really serves you. And in closing, as the one and only John Wayne says, courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. So what do you say we saddle up and wrap up this pony podcast on our changing narratives and our changing identities, Susan?
Yeah.
Yeehaw!
Giddy up. Right.
That's a wrap. We thank you for listening and hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please share this show with friends and family and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This way, you'll never miss weekly drops. Stay strong, dream big, and floss your teeth.